Good morning, everyone. How are you? Welcome. Okay, we're admissions people. Good morning, everyone. How are you? Yeah, great. That's usually what I do in my morning information sessions. Thanks for joining us. I know this is the last session on a Friday, and we are so excited to have you here for our presentation, The Struggle is Real, Young Professionals Managing Student Workers. Awesome. That's good. Okay, so a little bit about us. My name is Veronica Lewis. I work at Champlain College. Small school, 2,000 students up in Burlington, Vermont. Been there for about 4 years now, and I manage two different types of student groups. So I do manage our tour guides and our ambassador program. They are paid positions, and we have about 25 students in our program there. I also started an intern program. We have about 5 students in there, senior admissions interns that conduct interviews for our office.
Yeah, and I'm Ashley Pettit. I actually come from Grace College and Theological Seminary, actually in Indiana of all places. So I'm here just to speak on my experience with student volunteers. I help run the student government organization at Grace, and that's just what I do, and that's where my experience comes from.
And I'm Stephanie Rudzinski from WPI, Senior Assistant Director of Admission, and I oversee our Crimson Key Tour Guide program. So WPI is a tiered student program, and Crimson Key is our tour guides, about 75 volunteer students. I also oversee our 8 summer admissions associates this summer, and I started an intern program to help with women's recruitment initiatives, given WPI is a STEM school and we're always looking for more women. And so we have about 4,200 undergrads, and we're located in Worcester.
Cool. So obviously we all have a lot of different types of experiences, and we all work with students. And hopefully you can tell we're young, right? Maybe, hopefully. So we are young. Maybe that's not so clear, I don't know. But yeah, so I want to get a gauge around the room of how many of you currently work with students and have a student program. Good. Great. Anyone that is aspiring to work with students, or maybe helping take that program? Okay, great. Well, we're definitely, this whole presentation, we're going to talk a little bit, maybe about 20 minutes or so, about our experience working with our different groups and some of the struggles that we have faced when managing millennials, and also just being young in this profession and managing student groups. But then we want to open it up to a discussion, because what I love most about NACAC is obviously working with colleagues and talking with other people at other schools and really getting advice and information. So we will have a share out discussion, hopefully a longer discussion at the end, and we want to hear your advice as well. Okay? All right. So these are some of the challenges that we are going to talk about in some different capacities throughout our presentation. So we're going to talk about reliability, accountability, some of the incentives we might use, as well as how we help collaborate and build these teams and really empower our student workers.
So yeah, for starters, I'm just going to talk about volunteer student groups. So that's basically all I have experience in, and I love it. But some of the challenges that I've faced, because I'm a young person, hopefully you guys get that, and some of the students that I managed were actually older than I was. So I'm 21, so if you don't know that, but they were quite older than I was, so it was interesting to manage them. But some of the challenges that I faced, as you can see, the first one was a lack of reliability, and some called commitment, same. But basically, the best way that we remedied that is we had an administration team who were like, these people are not quite reliable, like what do we do? So what we did was we tried to build responsibility with the members about what they're doing. Just kind of giving them ownership of what they're doing so that they can take pride in it and put their effort toward it. And we also promoted our program as a leadership opportunity. So if you have volunteers that aren't quite reliable, try and make the connection for them now. What they're doing is directly related to the success of your organization, and their commitment is vital. So something we did in Senate was, state Senate, sorry, we had a senator, a volunteer, who was not with it at all. And we were wondering, what do we do with him? Do we kick him out, which we didn't want to do at all? Because he had a contract that he signed, and he wasn't living up to it. So we had to decide, how do we show him that his commitment, his tardiness, his attendance, all of it was important to the success. So we just kind of had to sit him down and show him that it was important. So sometimes you might have to have those conversations, and they can be a little dicey, especially if you're young, talking to someone who's older than you or something like that. But that's how I would remedy the situation, and take that for what you want. But the next one is a lack of enthusiasm among your students. So for me with volunteers, they're not getting paid. So how do you get them excited about what they're doing? And something we did was, as simple as it sounds, we just built value among the members about what they're doing. And for us, that was just showing them appreciation. Now for us, we have end-of-the-year parties and stuff like that where we're like, we just want to show you that we appreciate what you're doing. We would not survive without you as volunteers and all your other workers, as we'll get into. But something as simple as a thank you note or a thank you email or, like I said, appreciation events. We always cook them breakfast, and the people they work for or volunteer for, we always show them that, this is because of the work you've done. And in Senate, what we've done is each semester we have an end of the semester party, and we give them thank you notes. And I think sometimes thank you notes can be kind of boring, but what we do is we try and pick out one piece of information or something that they have done specifically, and we highlight it in that note, just so that they can see, oh, like, I'm being appreciated, they care what I'm doing, it matters. So I would say definitely focus on those if you have people who aren't quite enthusiastic. And then the last one I'm going to talk about is lack of team spirit. And with volunteers, sometimes you have people who aren't always in the same room. Your volunteers might be over here, they are doing whatever they do, and they might not ever see each other. So you want to focus on building this team morale. And everyone knows what team bonding is, I hope. But I would say focus on team building. And I think if you build as a team, you can grow as a team. And you want to definitely make sure that your team understands that. Whether it's volunteers, interns, paid student workers, whomever, whatever, make sure you focus on that. And something, I read a book, it's from Don Tapscott, and it's called Grown Up Digital. And it's all about the net generation and millennials and stuff like that. And he talks about our generation as collaborators and how if you're going to work with volunteers or students in our generation, you can really tap into that and focus on how we want to collaborate. And so that's what we did in Student Senate, because we noticed, they weren't quite really driving as a team, so we're like, how do we fix it? So of course we had team bonding, we had bowling night, don't worry, it's great. We loved it, they loved it, and it just got them to get to know each other. But then we also did, projects together. Like we put some of our volunteers together, say, hey, work on this, research it, focus on it, talk about it the next meeting. And it really helped them, and it helped them see that, the team spirit is important. And like I said, if you grow as a team, you build as a team, like it all affects your student organization. So those are a few of my experiences. Great.
So I'll talk a little bit about WPI's program, specifically coming from the tour guide angle. So Crimson Key is a hybrid program. So I would say it's about 80% volunteer and about 20% paid. Students volunteer during the week for our regular campus tours, special visits, any kind of one-off, gosh, we're in a panic, someone wants a tour tomorrow kind of thing. And anytime that they give a tour on a Saturday that we're open or during one of our breaks, they get paid. So it's primarily a volunteer program, but they have the opportunity to get paid for it. So we kind of have this murky, like, gosh, what do we do? They're volunteers. And as a person that sort of inherited this as a younger professional, I've been working with them for 2 years at WPI. There were sort of a lot of things that I struggled with to kind of get them motivated and to hold them accountable and how to incentivize them and how to make them feel that they are connected to our organization and to know that what they do has such a profound impact on what we do. So we have a couple of different things. So one of the big challenges for us is sort of the scheduling / accountability reliability. I think that WPI students overcommit themselves. They want to do everything. And I think that many of you probably experience the same thing. You have first year or second year students who are super jazzed to give tours, and then the older they get, the more jaded they become, and you kind of have to resort to bribery in some cases, right? So that's what I've done, and I'm not ashamed to admit that.
Me too.
Yeah, right? Yeah. So we gather their availability, and WPI, for those of you who don't know, operates on a 4-quarter system. So we have 4 terms throughout the year. So rather than 2 semesters, our schedule changes every 7 weeks. So we need to gather all of that availability 4 times a year. And so we have to, set schedules and deadlines. And so gathering that availability is really challenging. And so what we have found to be helpful that I've really relied on this year was our student interns. So we'll talk about interns in a moment, but WPI also has admissions interns that kind of get assigned various other tasks, and there are 2 that work with Crimson Key and myself. And so they were the ones that were chasing down their peers to fill out the availability form. They were the ones who were saying, you guys need to be here for your tours. And that actually really helped, and I think our tour guides felt a lot more accountable to their peers, right? The other thing is this idea of incentives. So for us, we used to give gift cards as, hey, we need a tour really badly, someone can you come help or whatever. And then the university decided to tell us that because students don't report gift cards on their tax returns, we couldn't actually use university money to give gift cards anymore. So that was like this whole new challenge of me having to advocate and say, I need a budget, I need to say, like, I need to like reward them somehow by doing CK of the term, or we need to get them better food, or we need to make sure that we keep giving them fleece jackets every year, or I need more money to be able to throw a paid hour of tour time, or I need money to be able to say, I'm going to take you to Dunks, or do you want a meal pass? All those upperclassmen that live off campus want a Dynacom meal pass. So kind of thinking creatively about how to incentivize your students is something that we did, and to also show appreciation, because again, we all know that the campus visit is the most important factor in a student's decision to enroll at a particular university. So I never want my student tour guides to lose the fact that they are not important. Like, they always need to know that they are crucial to the mission of what we're trying to do in admissions. The other thing is sort of this idea of training and keeping up with it. So we have meetings 4 times a year that are mandatory for them to stay in good standing as a Crimson Key tour guide. So the first day of each term, they know they have to be there, and that's my time to say, here are our updates, and then we bring in training from other folks around campus. So department heads who want to update them, facilities, career development center, we do icebreakers and just ways to get to know them, and to give them kind of great information. And then sort of this idea of the friend supervisor role. A lot of you who are young, if you were an alum of your institution and now you're working with students, or if you're only 2 or 3 years older, I think a lot of us have that mentality where we want to be friends with our students. Like, we want them to think that we're cool and we're fun and we're easy to talk to. But at the same time, if you're too lenient with them, you can't then go back to them and say, hey, why weren't you here at that tour time? They're going to think you're a friend when they need to think of you as a role model, right? So you need to kind of make sure that you set that boundary. So what I found that works for me is that I made sure to get to know every single one of my tour guides. So I know where they're from, what their major is. I know what they're doing, where they've gone away for their interactive study abroad project. I know at least one organization that they're in, and I make sure to connect with them while they're in our building. I also make sure that if a campus-wide email comes out celebrating one of their many accolades, I email them and I say, congratulations, this is fabulous. So they know that I'm looking out for them and that I know them, but it's not crossing a line where we're too friendly, okay? So I think that is like a piece of advice. I think you constantly have to be walking that line. And then the other thing is sort of this, students love swag, like they love free stuff. So, kind of saying, here, like, you're gonna get this t-shirt, or you're gonna get this fleece jacket, or we're gonna do this for you, or we have this tradition with our tour guides where we do a senior dinner every year and we give them paper plate awards. And so we'll do things like coolest research on campus, or most likely to only sign up to do a lunch tour, or like our go-to bio health sciences person. So it's a way to sort of celebrate them in a quirky, fun way, and then they get their little stuffed goat. And for those of you who know WPI, we love our goats on campus. It's our mascot. And the other thing that is to kind of provide structure within the organization. So like I mentioned earlier, with the idea of the interns, sort of that level between me and the tour guides, it really helped sort of set that, their peers are really holding them accountable, and I can sort of then come in if the interns are having a hard time. So they know that I know them, and I'm not like this face up here that has no idea who they are and what they do on campus. But it's a good way to kind of keep everyone connected and reliable. And I know Veronica's going to talk about social media and some other fun stuff. So
cool. Okay. So when I took over my program, I actually took over at we had semesters at Champlain College. So I kind of took it over mid-cycle because the original coordinator left. And when she was managing the program, she was full-time on campus, kind of managed the visit experience and the students. So she didn't travel at all. So they gave me the program, and I have 4 states, and I travel at least 3 months out of the year. So I said, okay, something needs to change then. Because as of when I took it over, our manual was about 5 pages. They didn't really have a dress code. They didn't have a non-disclosure agreement, an NDA. They didn't have those things because she was there to monitor them every step of the way. So that was kind of the biggest challenge for me, coming in as a 24-year-old saying, okay, I need to manage 25 of these students. I don't know them. I don't know their names and all of those advantages. And I need to somehow retrain them mid-cycle. So one of the things that I found, that first semester was obviously a little hairy, kind of getting used to it, but coming up on the fall semester, I started almost a week-long training. Our training with them is 4 days. It's right before orientation. And we do a lot of fun things during training. I set up those guidelines. My manual right now is closer to 20 pages, but we will actually go through it step by step with them. We have a pretty extensive, dress code, and they do have to sign a non-disclosure agreement because they do have access to sensitive data. So if your students have access to your CRM, if they're going to be seeing letters that are going out, if they help with any office projects, stuffing letters, sending out decisions, they should sign one of those as well. And in terms of, we start talking about our expectations in the interview process, saying this is how many hours we're going to expect from you. This is your demeanor. You are a tour guide even when you're not in the office. So many people will recognize you around campus, so you have to make sure that you do present well and that this job follows you. So we really set up those expectations during training. And as I said, we do have 4 extensive days of training. It's 9 to 5. We provide all their meals. It's fun. Yes, students love free food. So we do that, but we also actually get out into the community. Champlain, we do focus on giving back. It's kind of a part of our motto. So I brought them to a farm and we picked cabbages together. It bonds you because it smelled really bad, and my fingers, even like 2 days later, I smelled cabbages. But for the students, it was really fun. They were out, they were getting dirty together, and I know this might sound a little summer campy, but during their training, during the last night, I require them to do an overnight together in a tour. So that's quite fun. So it's a little summer campy. They have to watch a movie, and they plan skits. So they have to do skits about our office. And a lot of times they make fun of our team, that's totally fine. I can have a good sense of humor. But they do skits. We give them props. They have an hour with groups. So it's a lot of team building. And I know, my colleagues kind of talked a lot about that team building, but that's one of the ways we really focus on building morale. So they do skits, they perform it for the counseling team, and then they do an overnight and watch movies together. So, because I know with our tour guides and ambassadors, they work together consistently. Obviously during events and during the week, our students have their own office, and they really help manage the whole visit experience. They sit at the front desk, they're welcoming families, they're mingling with families, and they sometimes sit on our info sessions and add their perspectives, as well as giving them tours of campus too. So it's important that they know each other really well, because that really kind of relates to the reliability challenge that a lot of students have. Even though my students are paid, they're students. Sometimes they're spreading themselves so thin, they have different internships. They aren't always the most reliable, and especially when the semester starts getting into swing and they start getting overwhelmed. So as I mentioned, during training, we really do build that morale. So they not only are accountable to me, they're accountable to their peers, which I think is almost an even bigger deal for them. So that being said, in our structure, we have a leadership team, which are paid at a higher rate, so students are kind of interested in getting that leadership experience. So we have 2 tour trainers and we have 2 lead ambassadors. So they handle all of my scheduling for me, which is awesome. They handle all of the tour guides and assigning, and they actually help with, okay, if anyone's late, they track that, and they actually will meet with students one-on-one and kind of help with discipline as well. So it gives those students added leadership experience that they are looking for as well. And one thing I will say too about some of our incentives and some of the other things that we talk about, we have weekly meetings. So I meet with them for an hour every single Monday, give them kind of an overview of the week, what the week looks like, and I'll bring in a guest speaker during all of those meetings. So the guest speakers will be coming from across campus. We'll have public safety come in. We'll have different deans and different departments coming in. So our community, over the past few years, they've got a lot of buy-in with the students. Because we had a challenge when the students were going out on tour, a lot of the students were getting corrected by faculty walking by. Oh, no, we have, the minor's actually called this, not that. And they were getting corrected all the time. So I worked on bringing a lot of the faculty in and actually working with the students. So our tour guides and ambassadors have a better relationship with the different departments around campus as well. And every month we announce a student ambassador of the month. They get a little ribbon. You'd be surprised how it's a coveted ribbon. It's a blue ribbon. It says student ambassador of the month. And they wear it on their name tag. And they also get a little gift card. So hopefully I won't get in trouble with, I'm not going to tell HR. But we do give gift cards away. So they're like $10 to Starbucks. And we also we read out because they're nominated by their peers. So, and that's what's exciting. So we send out an email, we get all the feedback, and we read all of the feedback. Because obviously we pick 2 that are selected. for Student Ambassador of the Month, Student Ambassador of the Month for the tour, and then for the office work, because they do a lot of office work for us. So we pick 2 each month, but we read all of the honorable mentions. So students that don't hear their name called for a few months, they usually self-reflect and think, oh, my peers obviously aren't looking to me and thinking that I'm doing enough work. Maybe I should step up. And so honestly, I've found that it's really helpful, especially when we read through the names. There's certain names that aren't read a lot. Those people tend to be the next ones to kind of step up and raise their hand for projects and tours. Also, since I am so far removed from the team a little bit, and our leadership team really does help manage them on a daily basis, I meet with them twice a year, one-on-one. So we have one-on-ones, we sit down 15, 20 minutes, and I do this with the whole team just to get that face time. But yes, now I have memorized all of their names, where they're from, their majors, what else they do on campus, all of that fun stuff. So I feel like I do know them, but as Stephanie was mentioning, it really is important to have that divide because obviously I want them to think I'm cool, but it's not the most important thing in the world. So I want them to know at least that I respect them and that I do know them on a student level, okay? So in terms of social media, we came across this challenge because obviously they're younger, I don't know, they taught me about Snapchat. I didn't know about that a few years ago. So they do teach me some things, but also it can be a little bit dangerous, right? It's a kind of a little hard line to walk sometimes. So we talk about social media in our manuals. We talk about that in training a lot. And social media use, we actually, during our training, I have our community manager come out and talk with them. So our community manager in charge of all of our Facebook, Twitter accounts, she comes out, but before she comes, I give her the names of all my students. She does a little bit of research, does a little presentation to them of things that she's found about them online. It's not supposed to be this call out of, okay, you posted this picture and it's not appropriate, but it's one of those, people are hiding in their shirts, oh my gosh, I can't believe you found that, I thought I detagged it, I thought I was private. So it's really eye-opening to them when the community manager can say, no, I found this online about you. If you're applying to internships and jobs, this isn't appropriate to have. So it's really a great experience for them to, it's essentially eye-opening to say, oh wow, you can find that about me. But I will also say we do use social media for good as well. We talk to them about what's appropriate, what's not, but also we have a Facebook group for our students. So obviously it changes every semester, and only the students that are on the team are in it. So if I have an update, and if I am not going to be meeting with them for a while, or if I'm traveling, I'll update it so they'll all see it. If we have an emergency tour, okay, we have a special candidate coming in, we need a tour at 6 p.m. on Tuesday. We post it on the Facebook group and then we get replies. If people need coverage, if they're out sick, they post on it. So the students use the Facebook group a lot to communicate with each other to get instantaneous responses. So that's what we have found anyway. So with the paid admissions interns, Steph and I are both going to kind of talk a little bit about this. Our paid admissions interns, they conduct interviews for the college, and they are, we have only about 5 or 6 of them based on the year, and they're seniors. So we kind of deal with kind of our own challenges with the seniors. Obviously, professional demeanor and attire is very important. What we do when we are interviewing for these positions, we actually send out to our career counselors, we send out emails to our program directors, our deans, to get nominations. So this position is either, they can be hired from within our program, they can be hired from our tour guides, our ambassadors, and kind of move up the chain that way, or they can be hired from outside in different leadership opportunities around campus, but they do need to be nominated. So most often our nomination-based applicant pool is relatively strong, but we do obviously stress in the interview process that you will be business casual in the office. This is a very professional environment. When it comes to shifting, as I mentioned, some of our interns tend to come up from the student ambassador tour guide roles, and their offices are down the hall from each other. So sometimes there's that tendency to, oh, I want to go talk to my friends, even though I'm an intern now. We really nip that in the bud from the beginning. We said, when you are in the office, you are not allowed to visit. Just culturally, you're not allowed to do that. So really trying to helping support them step up and really step into their new role and away from their old one. But we do that as well. We do some cross-training. So with our ambassadors, they know how they should treat the interns and what type of information, what type of work they can go to them for, and vice versa. So everyone knows each other's roles, and I think that's really important. So the ambassadors and the tour guides know not to go to the interns and just chat and be casual as well. There's definitely a clear divide. But our interns, obviously, since they are older, the age proximity to their supervisors, obviously, me, tend to be a smaller gap as well. Obviously, these students are really high-powered, but still, there's always that challenge there. So it is, I know we've talked about it before, but it's really essential that they do respect you. We do have one-on-one meetings with them a couple times a semester to make sure that they are meeting our requirements and that they are setting those boundaries. We actually do have a celebration with them at the end of the year. It's something they tend to look forward to once they graduate. It's this kind of big dinner celebration. We can include alcohol to it. So it's this, okay, you are now an adult, you're entering the workforce. We are here for you as a mentor. So we really kind of frame it in that mindset. But senioritis is, I think, probably our biggest problem, because a lot of our seniors, they're in other internships. They're so involved. They want to participate in the activities on campus. They're applying for jobs. They're just spreading themselves really, really thin. So what we have actually done in our spring semester, we tend to lessen the number of hours that they have. So they only have to be in the office 5 to 6 hours a week, compared to the normal 10 that they would be in the office, to kind of go with that flow of the year. But also, we have a student-first mentality in our program. So we say, you're student first. If you know you're going to have a big exam coming up, a big test, and you need to be out of the office, you just need to give us notice. Because you would never show up for a job, just not show up that day because you were overwhelmed. So we make sure that they are student first, and we honor that, but they need to give us proper notice and kind of set those expectations from the beginning.
No, and I would just add, I think some of the challenges with interns is that, so at WPI, we have interns in like 3 different varieties. So we have our admissions interns, which present our information session. They do interviews. They will go and do college fairs if we can't make it. They will cover the front desk. They do all kinds of things. And then we have our MC interns and our women's recruitment interns. And so these groups of students have done things a little like siloed in the past, but they've done things like plan overnights, execute overnights, find hosts, get paperwork from parents, talk to guidance counselors, do completion. So like we really see them as like mini counselors, like they're extensions off ourselves. And so we see them so frequently and we work with them so much and so closely that it's kind of, the lines get blurred really quickly about whether or not, like, how should you talk to these students. And I think it's easy to say, yeah, come on into my office, and they're going to start chit-chatting and chit-chatting and chit-chatting, and you're going to be like, I have to work now. And so I think it's just reiterating the importance of setting the boundary. It's going to be really challenging, especially if you're an alum or if you're a year or 2 older. You really have to say to yourself, I need to set this professional boundary. I want them to respect me and appreciate what we're doing here, but I think they will respect you more if you're able to be friendly and respect them, but also you need to be like a leadership figure for students, right? And to just really set that boundary and don't let yourself cross it.
And one of the examples I will say, our interns actually recently, the admissions building at Champlain is actually an old house. It's quite neat, but we do share offices with other counselors. We're in the old bedrooms of the house. So our interns actually, their space was absorbed by another department, so they were actually put in our offices. So their desk is literally next to our desk. So I know I had to be really conscious when I was having phone calls, and if you get off a really difficult phone call, you just come back from a college fair, a kid with a really sweaty hand shook your hand with the left-hand side, and you just want to vent and talk about it. That happens to me a lot. They don't look you in the eye, it's just very awkward. So you want to talk and you want to vent and laugh about it, but I had to be really conscious about, okay, I should not do that in front of them, because I noticed I did that once. They went downstairs, they had an interview, they came like, oh my god, this student was so awkward, they were so weird, da-da-da-da. It's like, whoa, okay, this cannot, you can't talk like that, you're talking very loud, voices carry. So I had to have a conversation with them and say, look, that's actually not appropriate. We can talk about it maybe later when we wrap up about some of the different, how do you handle those awkward situations, but they shouldn't be venting and kind of complaining, especially to each other, about other students, especially within earshot of the director of admissions, which is next door. So it's one of those things that I know sometimes I had to catch myself. Okay, I shouldn't be talking about this in front of them. So setting that kind of expectation.
Right, and that's something I dealt with as well as student volunteers is kind of, since I am so young, they view me kind of as a friend, and you have to develop that boundary, but also certain conversations they're not allowed to know about, whether it's a campus change or something, you have to be able to say, like, I'm sorry, actually I cannot talk about this right now. And they kind of have to respect that, and if they don't, then that's a conversation you have